My parents always said they raised us with high standards. What they meant was, marry someone with a title, a degree, and a shiny answer when people ask, "So what does he do?" Growing up, I heard the same speech on repeat. Lisa, don't waste your life. You marry up, not down. Love is nice, but love doesn't pay bills. You need stability. You need status. They said up and down like they were talking about stairs, but they were talking about people. My brother Evan became a lawyer, and my parents practically glowed with pride. He made something of himself. My mother liked to say at every family gathering. I, on the other hand, like books, art, small jobs that let me breathe. By 28, I had a modest office job in a mid-sized company, paid my rent on time, had a few friends, and absolutely no rich fiancé. That made my parents nervous. Are you seeing anyone? My mum would ask every single call. I'm seeing my bills, I'd answer. We're very committed, she never laughed. On a random Monday morning, my life started to change in the most ridiculous way because our building smelled like a trash can left in the sun. The garbage chute had broken a week ago and no one fixed it. The stairwell reeked. By 10 a.m., there was a commotion outside our office door. I peeked out to see men in reflective vests and work boots pushing big trash carts, the kind you hope you never have to smell closely. One of them was talking to our receptionist, apologizing for the odor. I know it's bad, he said. They should have called us days ago. We're going floor by floor. We'll get it under control. I don't know why I noticed him. Maybe because he didn't sound annoyed. Just matter of fact, a little amused. He had dark hair pulled back loosely, brown skin, green eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and rough hands that looked like they actually did things. He looked like the kind of man my mother would call blue-collar with that specific tone that met beneath us. I went back to my desk. A few minutes later, the same voice said from my doorway, "Excuse me." I turned in my chair. It was him. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. "We've got a vent issue above this unit. Mind if I check your ceiling grate? If I don't, you'll smell this again tomorrow, and I'll have to come back. And then we'll both be unhappy." His tone was easy, like he'd had this conversation 100 times before with people much less polite. "Go ahead," I said. He dragged a small stepladder in, climbed up, unscrewed the vent, checked inside, then screwed it back. "Good news," he said. "No backup, no surprises. Just the hallway." "Lucky you. Lucky is one word," I replied. "I was starting to think someone had died in the stairwell," he snorted. "If they did, they'd probably still get less paperwork than you," he said, nodding at the stack of files on my desk. I laughed before I could stop myself. At work, I didn't laugh much. His smile widened a little, like he hadn't expected his joke to land. "I'm Jake," he added, wiping his hands on a rag. "City sanitation." "Lisa," I said. "Professional email, Aunt Sarah. That sounds worse than my job," he replied. "It is," I said. "At least people open their trash cans. No one wants to open email," he laughed, then left with his ladder and cart, and the lingering sense that I just met someone different. After that, I started seeing him more. Our building had problems, broken bins, missed pickups, random leaks, and every time, the city sent a crew. Jake was usually there, pushing a cart, teasing the security guard, making a terrible pun about garbage that somehow still made me smile. Sometimes it was just a nod in the hallway. Sometimes a quick, "Hey, paperwork warrior, how's the fight?" Sometimes we ended up in the same elevator, making small talk about the weather or traffic or the smell in the stairwell. One rainy afternoon, the elevator broke and I took the wrong stairs, ending up in the basement level by the loading dock, completely lost and annoyed. "You look like you took the portal to the wrong universe," a familiar voice called. I turned. Jake was there, loading bags into a truck bay, wearing a high-waist vest over a long-sleeve shirt, hair damp from the rain. "I was aiming for the lobby," I said. "Landed in." "Whatever this is, welcome to the glamorous underworld of waste management," he said with a small bow. "Next elevator's out that door. But you're soaked. Want a coffee? We take our break in 10. There's a vending machine that serves something almost like coffee if you close your eyes, normally." Every warning my mother had ever given me about men you don't know in basements would have screamed in my head. But his tone was casual, respectful. I was tired, and I was lonelier than I like to admit. "Okay," I said. We sat on the concrete edge of the loading dock, drinking terrible vending machine coffee from paper cups, watching the rain slam into the asphalt. I learned that he'd grown up on the other side of town, raised by a single mom who cleaned houses. That he'd started in sanitation young because it paid better than most entry-level jobs and came with health insurance and a pension if you lasted. I see the city when it's asleep, he said. It's quieter then. Less pretending. I asked if he liked his job. He thought for a second. I like that when we're done, the street looks better than when we got there, he said. I like that my nephew doesn't have to worry about school fees. I like that it's honest. Is it glamorous? No. Does it matter? Yeah, mostly to people who never think about us. No one I knew talked like that. The guys my parents had pushed at me talked about synergy and vertical growth and optimized portfolios. Jake talked about leaving things better than he found them. That break turned into a habit. Once every week or two, if our schedules aligned, I'd accidentally find my way to the loading dock or he'd coincidentally take his break near my building. We talked about everything and nothing. Music, neighborhoods, my annoying co-worker Greg who microwaved fish lunches, his friend on disability who couldn't get the VA to process his claim. He never pretended to be someone he wasn't, he never bragged. He listened. Month by month, those 10-minute coffees became the best part of my week. We went from strangers to friends, and from friends to one Saturday accidentally running into each other at a farmer's market, which turned into, well, we're both here. Might as well walk around together, which turned into do you want to grab a real coffee somewhere that doesn't taste like burnt plastic. Somewhere along the way, I realized I was looking forward to seeing him more than I was looking forward to anything else in my life. When I finally told my parents I was dating someone, my mother pounced. Finally, she said, "What does he do? Where did he go to college?" "His name is Jake," I said. "He works for the city, sanitation." There was a pause so thick I could hear her blink. "Sanitation," she repeated. "Like garbage trucks." "Yes," I said. "He's a garbage collector. And he's kind, and funny, and solid. And he treats me better than any man you've ever approved of." "Lisa," she said in the tone she used when scolding students, "you're almost 30. You want a husband who can give you a good life, stability, respect. People respect doctors, lawyers, engineers. No one respects a man who picks up their trash." "Maybe they should," I snapped. "We'd be drowning in filth without them." "Don't be dramatic," she said. "You will get tired of struggling." "Mark my words, I'm already tired," I said quietly, "of equating money with character." I hung up before she could respond. When the time came for Jake to meet my parents, my stomach knotted the entire week. I warned him. "They can be." I searched for a word that wasn't cruel. "Snobby," he shrugged. "I've dealt with worse," he said. "People yell all kinds of things from windows when they think we're blocking their driveway." He wore his cleanest dark jeans, a pressed button-down shirt, and brought flowers for my mother and a small green plant for my father's desk. My dad looked at the plant like it was an obligation. After awkward hellos and tense small talk, my father cleared his throat. "So," he said, "Lisa says you work for the city." "Yes, sir," Jake said calmly. "I'm with the sanitation department. Waste management. You drive the truck." My dad asked, like confirming a rumor. "Sometimes I drive," Jake said. "Sometimes I'm on the back, sometimes on special pickups. Depends on the day." My mother took a slow sip of her tea, then set it down with a little click. "So you handle trash," she said, voice flat. "All day," Jake met her eyes. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "All day. Someone has too. If we don't show up for 3 days, this whole city would stink. People notice us real fast then." She pressed her lips into a line. "Well," she said, "it's honest work." The way she said honest made it sound like she meant at least it's not illegal. The rest of the evening wasn't much better. Every time Jake tried to talk about something the neighborhoods he'd seen, the funny stories from night shifts, the elderly lady who left cookies for his crew every Christmas, my mother pivoted the conversation towards someone else's achievements. Evan's promotion, a cousin's husband in corporate law, a neighbor's son in med school. When Jake thanked her for dinner and started gathering plates, she said with a tight smile, "At least you're not afraid of dirty work," in the car afterwards. I stared out the window, rage and shame burning behind my eyes. "I'm so sorry," I said. "They had no right to talk to you like that." It's okay, he said quietly. I'm used to people deciding what I'm worth in 3 seconds. They don't know me, you do. That's what matters. It matters, I said. But it still hurts, he nodded. Yeah, he said, it does. But I've got thick skin. Comes with the job. A year later, we moved in together. When I told my parents, they were furious. You're living with a garbage collector. My mother almost shouted over the phone. Do you know what people will say? I don't care what people will say, I replied. I care how he treats me. And he treats me better than anyone. You allow her in yourself, my father said. We did not raise you for this. You raised me to be so scared of other people's opinions that I almost ignored the one person who actually makes me feel safe, I said. I'm done choosing my life based on your friends' gossip. They did not take it well. They didn't come to see our small apartment. They didn't invite Jake to holidays. At gatherings, my mother referred to him as Lisa's situation or the garbage man with a little wince, like the word itself smelled bad. To some people, my boyfriend was just a garbage collector. To me, he was the man who held my hair when I was sick, who worked overtime in winter storms so the city wouldn't drown in ice and trash, who remembered how I took my tea, who texted me drink water, goblin during long work days because I forgot. But my parents only saw the vest, the boots, the job title. They measured him in the one currency he didn't care about, status. And they decided he was worthless. They had no idea how wrong they were. The summer everything changed started the way most big changes do, quietly, with something that didn't look important at first. Our city had been struggling with an old landfill site by the river for years. It was supposed to be capped and safe, turned into a green hill with grass and bike paths. Politicians loved taking pictures there. Underneath the grass, though, old trash and chemicals were still there, buried and forgotten. Like everyone hoped the problem would just stay politely underground. Then came the rain. Not just any rain, a week of storms that turned streets into rivers and basements into swimming pools. One night, after 2 days of non-stop downpour, sirens started up in the middle of the night and didn't stop. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Jake was already sitting on the edge of the bed, half-dressed, listening. They're calling in all units, he said. Eyes on the window where water streaked in silver lines. Landslide near the old landfill. Flooding along the river road. If the hillside goes, all that buried crap goes with it. I sat up, heart racing. That's your route, I said. Sometimes, he replied, voice grim. Tonight, it's everyone's. He kissed my forehead quickly, grabbed his boots and reflective jacket, and was out the door before I could say be careful properly. For hours I refreshed news feeds, watched shaky live videos, listened to rain hammer the windows and sirens howl past like angry ghosts. Reports trickled in. Part of the green hill had collapsed under the pressure. Mud and water mixed with old landfill contents, trash, sludge. God knows what were sliding down toward the low neighborhoods, where the cheapest housing clung to the edge of the river. One reporter in a slick raincoat, yailing over the storm, said, City sanitation workers and emergency crews are on scene, trying desperately to divert the flow, clear storm drains, and evacuate residents from the most at-risk blocks. I knew Jake was there, knee-deep in poison and floodwater, in the dark, with people screaming and lights flashing. No matter how many times I hit call, his phone didn't connect. Cell towers were overwhelmed. Power flickered across half the city. Around 3 a.m., the rain finally eased. Around 4 a.m., my eyes burned too much to stare at the screen anymore. I fell asleep sitting up on the couch, TV still playing looping disaster footage. At 7 a.m. my doorbell rang. My heart dropped. For a split second, I thought of 2 policemen on the porch, hats in hand. Instead, when I opened the door, Jake stood there, soaked to the bone, mud up to his knees, eyes red with exhaustion, but alive. You look like hell, I said, then burst into tears and threw my arms around him, not caring that I got covered in mud too. He hugged me back shakily. You should see the other guy, he murmured against my hair. Later, in the shower, I saw dark streaks washing off his skin that weren't just mud. Chemical stains, bruises, small cuts. That night, over black coffee at the kitchen table, he told me pieces of what had happened. How a retaining wall by the hillside had started to fail, and if it broke, thousands of tons of sludge would have crashed through the lowest streets, taking houses, cars, and people with it. How the engineers and firefighters and sanitation crews had all argued for 10 minutes about what might work, before someone said, "We need to open a secondary channel," and pointed at the old industrial culverts that hadn't been used in decades. How those culverts were clogged with years of debris, illegally dumped trash, and sediment. How someone had to go into the overflow tunnels in chest deep, freezing, chemical-laced water to help break the blockage, guide the flow, set the barriers. "We're trained for confined spaces," Jake said slowly. "We know those tunnels. Fire didn't, cops didn't, nobody else knew how bad it was down there. So it was us, him and his crew went first. Other waste workers followed. They waded into blackness with only headlamps and ropes tying them to the surface teams, air thick with the stink of rot and engine oil. They cut through tangles of trash with hand saws, pulled broken shopping carts and tree branches, and even rusted appliances out of the flow. At one point, the current almost took his co-worker Miguel off his feet. Jake grabbed his safety harness and braced against the tunnel wall until his shoulder felt like it was tearing. "I'm not a hero," he said firmly when I looked at him with wide eyes. "We all did it. Everyone down there. We just did what we had to. If we didn't, half that neighborhood would have been gone by morning. You went underground, in the middle of the night, into flood water full of poison, to keep strangers' houses from floating away," I said. "What do you call that if not heroic?" He looked down at his hands. They were still red and raw from it. "I call that my job," he said quietly. The city, however, called it something else. At first, the news barely mentioned sanitation. "Emergency responders," the anchors said vaguely, showing footage of fire trucks and police barricades. But someone on social media had posted a blurry, rain-streaked video of men in reflective vests waist-deep in black water, hauling debris, while a voice behind the camera said, "Sanitation crew is out here risking their lives in the sludge, while everyone else stands back." That clip went viral. Then another one showed Jake and Miguel staggering out of a tunnel, soaked, coughing, grabbing onto the side of a truck to catch their breath while someone off-screen yelled, "You saved those houses. Man, you guys did it." Suddenly, for once, cameras were pointing at the people in orange vests instead of just the ones in dress uniforms. Reporters who'd never thought about trash schedule before were now asking, who are these workers? How are they trained? Why don't we know their names? The mayor's office, seeing which way public opinion was turning, scrambled to catch up. 3 days later, the floodwaters had receded enough for photo ops. The mayor stood on a slightly muddy street in a clean jacket, talking about infrastructure and climate resilience. Beside him was a line of firefighters, police officers, and, for the first time, a line of sanitation workers in their best uniforms, boots scrubbed as clean as they could get them. Jake had tried to dodge it. "I don't want to stand there like some mascot," he told me. "This isn't about me," but his supervisor had insisted. "You were on point, Reed. You kept those guys moving. You go." The night before the ceremony, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Did you see the news?" she asked without hello. "About the floods." I said carefully. "About the garbage men," she corrected. "Your boyfriend was on TV." In the background, her tone was strange, half disapproval, half something like reluctant curiosity. "Yeah," I said, "he was. He helped save an entire neighborhood." There was a pause. "They're doing some kind of award, aren't they?" she asked. "At City Hall. Tomorrow," I said. "Why?" Another pause. "Your father and I were thinking." She began, then stopped. "Thinking what?" I pushed. "That we might come. Just to see," she said stiffly. "If it's open to the public." I didn't trust it, but I heard something in her voice I hadn't heard before, doubt. Not in me, in herself. The next day, the main hall at City Hall was fuller than I'd expected. Rows of chairs, families, local press, city employees. A big banner that said, "Honouring our unsung heroes." My parents slipped in late, sitting in the back. My mother wore her best jacket, like she was going to war. My father looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. I stood up front with Jake's crew's families. The ceremony began with the usual speeches. Thank you to first responders. Talk about infrastructure, climate change, budgets. Then the mayor said, "Today, we want to shine a light on people we all depend on every single day, but too often look right past. Our sanitation workers, one by one, he called up members of different crews who had worked through the night in the flood zone. When he called Jacob Ortiz, my heart punched my ribs. Jake walked up, shoulders straighter than I'd ever seen them, eyes steady. Mud stains had been scrubbed from his boots, but some scuffs would never fully disappear. I kind of loved that. The mayor shook his hand, pinned a small medal on his chest, and handed him a framed certificate. Then something unexpected happened. "I'd like to say a few words," the mayor said, stepping aside. "But I think it would mean more coming from someone else," he gestured, and a woman walked up. Short, tired eyes, clutching the hand of a little boy. "This is Ms. Alvarez," the mayor said. "Her house is one of the ones that would have been destroyed if these workers hadn't done what they did." Ms. Alvarez looked at the room, swallowed, then leaned toward the microphone. "I live down by the river," she said, voice shaking. "We don't have much. My husband works nights. I was alone with my son when the water started coming in. People shouted to get out, but when I opened the door, there was water like a river in the street. I thought it was over. Then I saw men in those jackets." She looked at Jake, and the others are standing in the water, pulling things out, shouting to each other, setting up barriers. One of them looked up at me and said, "We're not letting your house go without a fight." That man was him. She pointed at Jake. "I don't know what you all think is important," she said, looking toward the crowd, and for a moment her eyes landed on my parents in the back row. Big jobs, small jobs. But that night, the only thing that mattered was men in boots standing in the dark water so my boy would still have a bed to sleep in. That's worth more than any suit in any office. There was a murmur, then something like a ripple of agreement through the audience. People clapped first politely, then louder. I saw my father straighten in his seat. My mother clutched her purse tighter. Eyes fixed on Jake in a way I had never seen before, like she was seeing him for the first time. After the ceremony, there were handshakes, photos, too many "you're a hero" comments that made Jake uncomfortable. I caught my parents at the edge of the crowd, hovering like they didn't quite know how to enter the room. My mother's eyes flicked from Jake's medal to his warm boots and back again. "You came," I said, walking up. "We did," my father said. He cleared his throat, voice rough. "We saw what the mayor said. And the woman. On the news, they showed the tunnels. The water, it was his job," I said, a little defensively. My mother shook her head. "Lots of people have jobs they hide behind," she said softly. "Sit in offices, move numbers on screens, never touch anything real." He went into that black water so strangers' houses wouldn't be washed away. Her eyes grew wet. "When you told us he was a garbage collector, we thought that meant he was small. But I watched all those people stand up and clap for him. I watched a woman say her home was standing because of him. That doesn't look small." Jake walked over, saving me from having to respond. "Mr. and Mrs. Taylor," he said politely, nodding. "I didn't expect to see you here." My father looked at him for a long moment. Then, to my shock, he held out his hand. "Thank you," he said, "for what you did for this city, and for taking care of my daughter when we didn't." Jake shook his hand, equally surprised. My mother stepped forward. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I called you just a garbage collector once." She winced at her own memory. "Today I saw that you're also a man other families trust with their lives without even knowing your name. That's not just anything." Jake looked uncomfortable, but he nodded. "It's okay, ma'am," he said. "A lot of people think that way. They just don't always get a flood to change their minds." She actually laughed, a short, startled sound. "We were wrong," she said. "About you. About what matters." On the drive home, I looked at Jake's profile as he drove, the metal glinting faintly in the fading afternoon light. "How do you feel?" I asked. He shrugged. "I still have to be up at 4 a.m. tomorrow," he said. "The trash doesn't care about medals. Do you care?" I pressed. He thought for a second. "I care that, for once, people saw my guys as more than background," he said. "I care that Ms. Alvarez's kid still has a home. I care that your parents looked at me like a person, not a warning." He glanced at me. "And I care that when I left this morning, I had someone to kiss goodbye who was proud of me, whether I had a medal or not." I smiled, throat tight. "We didn't become rich after that. We didn't move into a fancy neighborhood. My parents didn't magically turn into perfect saints. They still bragged more about my brother's cases than my partner's night shifts. But something fundamental had shifted. At family gatherings, my mother no longer introduced Jake as Lisa's situation, but as Lisa's husband. He works for the city. Sometimes, she added, almost unconsciously. He got an award from the mayor last year, like she needed to prove to herself that it was respectable. My father started asking Jake about his roots, about the people he met. One Thanksgiving, after a few to many glasses of wine, he said, "You know, I used to joke about 9-to-5 jobs being hard. Then I watched that special about sanitation workers' injuries. You guys lose fingers and backs so we can complain about trash cans. We try to keep all our fingers," Jake said wryly. "But yeah, it's not light work. What changed me the most wasn't the medal, or the speech, or even my parents' apology. It was the way, after that flood, I started seeing the city differently. When a truck blocked traffic, I didn't roll my eyes. I thought, clear the way. They've got 100 stops." When I saw a worker hauling bins in the freezing rain, I thought about Jake in that tunnel and Ms. Alvarez's shaking voice. And I thought about how many times I had walked past someone in a uniform or out of one and decided their worth in 3 seconds. My parents once called my husband just a garbage collector. The mayor handed him the city's highest honor because, when disaster hit, it turned out the person they looked down on was one of the few holding the city up. That's the thing about people like him. People like the man on the park bench you pass, the woman sweeping the floor, the guy in the reflective vest at 3 a.m. You don't really see them until your comfort depends on them. By then, you don't care what their title is. You care that they showed up. You care that, when things fell apart, they waded into the mess while everyone else stood on dry ground and watched. And sometimes, if you get very, very lucky, you realize you didn't marry down at all. You just married someone whose value was never going to show up on a business card.